If you're doing this correctly, how can they get fed up? Because you're getting engaged in their world. They're learning something and they're doing something. Some people need their mind to get off the problem to be there. Some people need their mind to get into the problem to be there. Some people need something completely different. Joe and I have just been talking about this whilst you were doing the... Joe does a lot of pain control. When I had a practice, I wouldn't specialize in it, but I saw my fair share of it. And the steps that we're doing right now, this particular segment, right, they're simple steps. But there are times when you need to spend the entire session, an hour, sometimes 2 hours, just doing these steps. This and a couple of other things that we're going to be doing in a moment. Because if you try and rush through these, I can tell you right now that your experience as a hypnotist is going to be most dissatisfying. It is very, very hard to work with a client when you haven't ticked these steps off the box. And these are not steps, they're just parts of the conversation. The only clients I have ever failed with pain control, I'm not trying to say this is like I can work with everyone, because I haven't worked with enough people to say, you know, this is something I've done for 10 years and of 1,000 people I've worked with, this is the case. But my suspicion is that this is actually the case. Just give you the disclaimer on this one. The only people I've ever failed with are the ones where I failed to do the first 5 or so steps that we're going to be covering here in this session. When I covered them to my satisfaction, I have never failed with pain control. Never. I haven't necessarily got all the pain out of the way. I've had maybe sensation, or maybe there's something there, but it is no longer troubling that person. Does that make sense? My strong conviction is that if I did see 10,000 clients with pain, that would still be the case. But I cannot tell you that because that is not something I've done. I haven't seen that amount of pain control clients. Does that make sense to you guys? I'm trying to give you a real sense of what goes on. Joe, would that match your experience also?
Completely.
Anyone else here a hypnotist working with pain? Would this match your experiences also, now that you've reflect back on that sort of thing? We haven't covered some of these steps yet, but this is crucial, folks. And it's actually quite fine for you to spend an entire session doing nothing but this before you engage in the hypnosis. Because this is really, in my opinion, where the bulk of the healing gets done. Does that make sense to you guys? Just to stand up for questions. Let's have some microphones over here, folks. Just stand up if you want to have a question that's coming around.
Igor, how long is the session going to be? If you're spending 2 hours on the first step,
so here's the thing.
The client's going to get pretty fed up.
What makes you think that?
From my experience, because...
Let's talk over here. If you're doing this correctly, how can they get fed up? Because you're getting engaged in their world. They're learning something and they're doing something.
Yeah.
The reason that you might think they might get fed up is because if you're just chit-chatting, you're correct. They will get fed up with chit-chatting.
Yeah.
But this is not chit-chat, right? This is not chit-chat. You folks in the front row, you're hoping, some of you still are hoping that I'll work with you in terms of the pain control. Is that correct? Did you get fed up this morning when I just kind of started going like, well, there's this idea, and then there's this idea, and here's something you should know about it, and here's something else, and realize I'm here with you, and so on? Or was that actually making you feel more confident in the process? So you're actually doing conversational hypnosis right here. Mm-hmm. When I'm asking him about his, what he likes to do, if he's the right kind of person for that kind of conversation, the healing's already begun. If he isn't, he will get fed up, which was our second example. We got fed up. He said, well, I'm here for the pain, right? And you will have absolutely clients like that. You've had them. I've had them. You've had them, no doubt.
I have had them.
So what do we do then? We talk about the pain. Already I'm working as far as they're concerned.
Yeah.
Now, am I doing any relief at that point yet? Have they experienced any relief? Maybe, maybe not. But what will happen, 100%, and you will see this happening time after time, is somewhere during this conversation, whatever pain levels they were at, and we'll show you how to check that literally in the next step,
Good.
Whatever pain levels they were at will spontaneously change, alter, right, in one direction or the other. As soon as you have that, you have a wide open door for change.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Yes.
So this is, please, do not think that anything we've done up to this point is just chit-chat. If your mindset is, oh, it's just chit-chat before we get anything serious, then you've just wasted the entire opportunity. There is nothing that I do with a client that is chit-chat. It may sound like chit-chat, but it is not, right? Those of you who were present when I did in the previous course, the hypnotherapy course, the demonstration with the phobia, right? We're in different courses now, right? Do you recall how we just had some chit-chat with a client before we actually did the whole regression stuff? It was more obvious there because the client was terrified that the chit-chat was doing more than just being a chit-chat. Joe is not in agony right now, which is why it's less obvious, but it is still not chit-chat. It is a conversation with a purpose. The first step of that purpose is to develop this strong sense of rapport, his sense of faith that someone finally is hearing me, listening to me. How many of you have had a pain? You've seen doctors and you've been abused in hospitals by doctors basically treating you like a piece of meat and really didn't like it. Anyone? What was your sense when you met that one person? It could have been a doctor or a nurse that treated you like a genuine human being. How did that feel to you? Huge relief. And as we know, a large percentage of the pain that someone is experiencing is stress. The stress that those doctors cause by ignoring your humanity actually increased the pain. The relief you experience when a human being was talking to you is already diminishing it. Now, as soon as a process like pain diminishes, can you see certain hypnotic potential there, like the non-awareness set and so on, right? So just because, please do not think this is chit-chat. This is actually the work itself. I personally think the next session will look at techniques for pain control. Personally, I think this thing we're doing in this session here is by far the most important thing you will ever do with a client that is in pain. And that's why I am willing to spend the entire session, be that 3 hours, I do not care. If that is what they need, that is what they'll get, because the technique is useless without this step. Does that help? Yeah? And I don't mean to belay the point, but I feel very strongly about this. And you can experiment with it, and you'll notice a significant difference between doing these things, and we haven't even got to the whole point of it yet, and not doing them. And my experience is that, Joe's experience is that, those of you working with pain control, will that be fair? That's your experience also? Yeah? Does that help? Thank you very much for bringing the question up, because if you were thinking it, at least another 10 people in the room were thinking it too. Just stand up, and we'll come to you guys in a second. We'll come in a second.
You mostly answered the question, but so during these steps, though, you would calibrate the speed you go through to
100%, yes. I'm not doing this just to chat to him. I'm doing this to see. Remember, what's the first step you do before you do any induction? The context, right? In terms of regular hypnosis, you could tell compliance and so on. I am compliance testing him just in the conversation. If I say, so what do you like to do for fun, to relax and so on, he goes, look, look, man, I'm just here for just the pain. Can we just deal with the pain? Do I have compliance? Do I have his mind in the right place yet? No. So this conversation is getting his mind into the right place. Some people need their mind to get off the problem to be there. Some people need their mind to get into the problem to be there. Some people need something completely different, right? By the way, can you see how that's already teaching me, as the therapist, which approach to take towards the pain control? Taking the mind off it or taking the mind into it, right? Does that help? So you're correct. I am, it looks like a conversation, but it is not, right? It feels like a conversation, but when you have that H+ that drives it all, it becomes something very different.